happened in the last week or so. Um, a lot of running around and a lot of really big last minute changes. So I think I'm just going to start at the beginning and go from there. Last Friday, I took off from school because I was going to spend this past weekend cleaning. I was going to do all the final cleaning for my apartment because the school would be coming to check the apartment. I was going to try and pack everything away so I could make sure that everything would fit into my suitcases and figure out if I needed to send like another box. And basically that was my goal. I was just going to do all the detailed cleaning, get everything nice and organized, and then I wouldn't have to worry. I could just spend the last couple weeks just relaxing. So what happened was Sunday, I started feeling really, weird. I was having a lot of regret and I was having a lot of doubt about whether this had been the right choice to make. So usually on JET, you decide if you're going to recontract for another year about the end of December. So you have to decide pretty early on. And I had thought, I'm going to be going to my master's school, so not going to recontract again. And of course that was before everything happened with 2020 being a disaster and worldwide pandemic. So once that started, kicking off and the situation got worse, there were changes within the JET program that started to happen. So originally my replacement wouldn't have come until mid-September anyway, because they had to push it back because of the Olympics. And then obviously the Olympics got canceled/postponed. So we still thought, okay, the replacement will come, surely things will be better by, the summer. And then they didn't get better. And people started to get really worried, because not only did it become less sure that this year's group of participants would be able to get into the country, there was also the issue that a lot of people had ended their contract early to go home, which, that was their decision for their best interests, nothing against them, it's a difficult situation. But what that meant was that there were a lot less ALTs, and it's unsure if their replacements would be able to come. And because most of the JET program participants do come from America, and the fact that America is in the situation it is in, where it has not been able to do the most basic things to keep infection from spreading, they're barred from entry to Japan. They're not allowed in. So then that creates a problem for the program. If we had a lot more people leave than they were expecting, and the new people can't get in because of all the travel restrictions, what are we going to do for the next year? And we'd been watching the Facebook groups and seeing what people were saying, what were the updates, that kind of thing. And updates were really slow. The program was not really saying anything because they wanted to wait until they were 100% sure, which of course means that you don't find out until very last minute. So a lot of people were wondering, is it even going to happen this year? Are things going to improve by August or September? And so what ended up happening was in about May, at least in Hyogo Prefecture. I don't know if this was all the prefectures, but they gave leaving JETs the opportunity to recontract. So if we had already decided in December that we were going to leave, we had one more chance where if we wanted to extend because of the current situation, we could recontract and that would be okay. And the deadline was June 8th. And so I was still hoping that, okay, well, US isn't doing too good, but I'll be going to England, and I really wanted to go forward with my master's degree. And so I was kind of waiting and hoping that the university would come out with some more information, they would come out with updates, so I didn't recontract. And this past weekend, there still wasn't a lot of updates from the university. They still hadn't defined what would happen for international students that would need to self-isolate or self-quarantine. And there still wasn't a lot of information about how the program would change. They mentioned blended learning. They mentioned that the practical sessions would be reduced, so there'd be fewer students for each session in order to maintain social distancing. But it still wasn't really explained to my satisfaction, how that would compare to a normal year. Because I wanted to know, if there's this number in a normal year, what's the number going to be this year? Like, how reduced is it? And what is the content going to be? Because that was kind of a major reason I wanted to go. So I was feeling a lot of doubt and regret because I thought, maybe I should have just recontracted and, not worried about the school thing, because I'd be in Japan, which has lower infections, so I would be safer. I would get another year to save money so I could have more money to go towards my degree. And I just spent all of Sunday just kind of worrying about that and thinking it over in my head. And I made a spreadsheet that had pros and cons for if I stayed in Japan versus I put off the university and just stayed in the US versus just going straight to the university. But the problem was I didn't know if any of that was possible. I didn't know if I could still stay in Japan because the deadline to recontract was in June and I had already passed that up. And I didn't know if I could get an additional deferment because I'd already used my one deferment because I had applied early. So I was doing a lot of worrying. I was trying to figure out, can I bring this up to my school? Can I see if I mention it to them? Because things were looking more and more dire for the program. And we got word that consulates had set out an email that said we're pushing back the decision. And, I feel really sorry for all of the 2020 Jets because that puts them in a really difficult situation. Because if they have already, quit their jobs or, ended their leases because they were expecting to be able to come to Japan and they're just waiting and waiting and waiting, they have to live their lives too. And so, I feel really bad for them. I hope things work out okay for them. But we're hearing all this and it's I don't know if my replacement will be able to come. And so I thought, maybe I should bring this up to the principal. So that's what I did on Sunday. I spent the whole day just worrying. And then Monday I had a half day and the vice principal wasn't at the school. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm having a meeting with the principal. He was meeting all the staff and doing just a little interview with them. And I was I don't know if I can bring this up to him. Tuesday was a really busy day for me. So when I was talking to him, I told him, I wish I had recontracted because I think it would have been better for me to stay here. And he was like, yeah, we would love for you to stay longer. And I basically just chickened out because I was trying to do the roundabout, I'd be interested in staying longer if it was possible, but we just didn't know if it was possible. So I'd mentioned that to him, and then I had to go and get ready for my goodbye party because Tuesday was my goodbye party. So I had about maybe an hour or so from when I had that meeting with the principal to when my goodbye party would be. And so I was just kind of sitting there thinking oh man, maybe I should have been more direct, maybe I should have said something. And then I got an email from the Board of Education, which said, hey, it looks like it's hopeless for the ALTs to get in this year. For all of you that are preparing to leave, I know you're already busy with, your preparations to leave, but if, and not just one if, not just two ifs, 5 ifs, if you would be willing to stay another year, the BOE will work with you. And I was oh my gosh. On the one hand, that is what I wanted, but on the other hand, the amount of stress I was under, because I was oh my gosh, I have a plane ticket to leave in 3 weeks, I'm about to go to my goodbye party, they're coming to my apartment today to check it because I'm supposed to be leaving, and I was just oh my gosh, I didn't know what to think. I was going crazy because I was I don't know how to handle this. I need to tell my principal, and yes, this is what I wanted, but I also still haven't determined if I could get that second deferral from my university, and I was just maximum stress right then. So I went and talked to one of the teachers I work with, and I said, hey, I just got this email. After the party, can you come with me to talk to the principal to explain this to him and see what he says? And she was oh my gosh, yes. She was so excited because I really enjoy working with her and she really didn't want me to go. So we're oh, this is so great, you don't have to leave. I was yeah, but I'm about to go to my farewell party. And so we're okay, so I'll go to the farewell party and then we'll go talk to the principal and get that figured out. So I'm still waiting, had a little bit of time before the party, and then we head over, and usually what would happen is there would be a farewell dinner where the English department would go to a restaurant, we'd have a nice little dinner, there'd be like a little speech, and they'd get me a goodbye present or whatever. But obviously, because of the situation, we can't really go do that, and so what they decided to do instead was have a bento lunch. So at the school, they would order bentos in, little, food box, and they'd space everybody out in tables in like a U shape, and so that way we could kind of keep distancing, we'd be able to eat, and we would just fit it in during school, during the lunch period, and a little bit into 5th period. So the whole time, I'm just like feeling really weird, because I'm like, this is supposed to be a goodbye party, but I might not actually be leaving. And so the whole time, like, that's going through my head. So I go in, and like, I love my teachers. Like, from the start, everybody knew that Jennifer's into Godzilla, and Jennifer likes Ghibli, and Jennifer likes, all these different things. They had me walk into the Godzilla theme song, which was so funny. And then they had like a slide projector that was playing, or that was scrolling through images of like Godzilla and like Ghibli characters with little speech bubbles that said like, "Thank you, Jennifer, goodbye, Jennifer, good luck, Jennifer." It was so cute, and they decorated it with little paper flowers and balloons. It was really great, it was really sweet, and of course the whole time I'm like, I'm not actually leaving, maybe. So I go in, and they asked me to do a little speech, which, like, again, I hadn't thought to make anything because I had just gotten that email, so instead of like making a speech, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I said like a little quick, off the cuff thing about, I really enjoyed working here, it's a really great work environment, everybody's very nice and very happy. And then they were like, okay, cool, we really liked having you here. They got me a little, they made a little, actually, let me grab that. So they made me this really sweet, they have these little shikishi boards, and everybody wrote little notes on it, little like, thanks, we had a lot of fun working with you, good luck, and it was really sweet, and I'm just like feeling bad because they put all this effort and I might not be leaving. So they did that, they presented me with the gifts, and then we sat down to eat. And again, it was a little bit awkward because the whole time in the back of my head, I'm like, I might not be leaving. It was also a little bit difficult because of the spacing, it made it harder to talk to anybody. And on top of that, they were playing background music, but it was a little bit too loud. So I really couldn't hear anybody except the people that were directly next to me. And the people directly next to me were my co-ALT, who I sit next to every single day anyway, and then one of the other JTEs. So I could really only talk to like one JTE this whole time, instead of being able to kind of talk to multiple people. So I finished eating, and then they were like, hey, open your present, and I opened it up, and it was really cute. They got a hiking backpack with a little pouch and a water bottle. It was basically like the same thing that my previous co-ALT got, so I immediately knew which JTE had bought it. But it was great. I was happy with it. It's something practical and useful that I'll be able to get a lot of use out of. And so everybody was really nice, and then we cleaned up and went back to the teacher's room. And I had to wait a little bit because the other JTE that was going to go with me to talk to the principal had a 5th period class. So I had to wait until 5th period ended. But I also had, at 3 o'clock, the office was going to come to my apartment to check it. So there was like kind of a slim window for us to talk to the principal before we had to leave again. So we ran into the principal's office really quickly. We had to wait a little bit because he was on the phone, but we went in there and I was like, hey, remember how I said that I would love to stay another year? Well, the BOE just sent me an email that said, hey, if you can stay another year, like, this is your last chance. And it turns out that my principal had worked with the person at the BOE before, and he was like, who sent the email? And I was like, oh, it's this person. He was like, oh, I know them. I'll just give them a call. They should have told me instead of like taking it to you. And so I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, yes, we'd love for you to stay another year. Because me staying was all contingent on whether my school was okay with it. He was like, yeah, we'd love for you to stay another year. I was like, awesome, cool. So he said he was going to call the BOE to talk to them about that and let them know that I was interested. And then I went back to wait, that last 10 or 20 minutes before we had to go to my apartment. So then the office calls and says, okay, we're ready to go to the apartment, and so as we're walking down the hallway with the people from the office to go head out, the principal and the vice principal run out of the principal's office and are like, hey, can we talk to you real quick? And we're like, yeah, just hold on. So we go in there, they had called the BOE, and they said, we talked to them, and they said, it's great if you want to stay, but there are going to be some changes to your contract. And the main thing was going to be that instead of being at my base school 5 days a week, I would be at the base school 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week I'd go to a different high school in Amagasaki. And I was like, but I can stay at the same apartment, right? And they're like, yeah, because since this is your home school or your main school, you know, that's going to stay your apartment. And I was like, okay, great. That was what I was worried about. I don't mind, you know, visiting another high school. I kind of think it'll be a nice change of pace, actually. So I'm interested to see how that'll work. And I said, can you just give me 1 day to think it over, because I need to see what's going on with my university. And they're like, yes, just let us know as soon as you can, and we'll start getting stuff moving on that end. I was like, great. Okay, so it looks like there's no problem with me staying. So we all get in the car and we drive down to my apartment. And basically what they needed to do was come in and they needed to check all of the items that were school owned versus like what items I would be leaving behind. And it was kind of funny because it seems like maybe the school doesn't have a copy of what items are school owned, because the paper they were using was the one that I gave them that my predecessor had given me, that she had just made. So I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't given that paper to them, if they would have had to like ask around or go back through records or something. So they had this paper that listed, you know, what items were school owned, and so I think it was like the fridge, vacuum cleaner, washing machine, that kind of thing. So they were just going around to check those items off to make sure that I still had them. They were taking pictures of everything to check the condition, checking that like the lights and the water worked, those sort of things, and checking to make sure, you know, see if there's anything that needed to be fixed, which I have some light bulbs that need to be replaced, so they're going to take care of that. They actually took my screen door out because there's like a little hole where the screen has like separated from the door. So one of the school maintenance guys took it out of the door frame and is going to fix it at school and bring it back later. But what really surprised me was that they wanted me to get rid of a lot more stuff than I was expecting. And keep in mind that like I had spent most of Monday packing away as much stuff as I could. Like I put all my clothes into the suitcases. I had a box of stuff that I was going to need to ship. And then everything else that was sitting out, I was more or less expecting to leave here. And that's pretty normal for JETs on the JET program, is that anything that could be useful for the next person or be, you know, too annoying to get rid of, you leave behind for the next person. And there are people that go like too far where they're just like, I'm too lazy to get rid of this thing. And I feel bad for the people that get like, you know, apartments or houses that have entire rooms full of just old junk that hasn't been gotten rid of. But when I came here, I had almost nothing. So I had to buy all the furniture. So most of the stuff I was leaving behind was not an excess of items. It was like the required amount to live here. And I'm talking like, you know, futon. I have an extra futon for like visitors. Some futon mattress pads, sheets, cleaning supplies, you know, that kind of thing. Normal, reasonable things to leave behind for the next person. The school wanted me to get rid of like everything, and I mean like beyond the reasonable, with the reason that the other person might have different preferences. I'm not sure what they mean by that. Like, they might be a different style. They mentioned that the next person could be a guy, and obviously I have like a little bit more feminine decorating style, but that doesn't seem reason enough to throw away the things they wanted me to throw away. So what exactly did they want me to throw away? Almost literally everything. Like forks, silverware, my sheets, the little decorations I had, like everything. They're like, you can leave like the pens and pencils and stuff, but they literally wanted me to get rid of like everything. And I can understand because like I do a lot of crafts, so I have like a little basket with like miscellaneous craft things, you know, stamps or whatever. I can understand that, but silverware and sheets and cleaning supplies, like I organized the underneath of my sink and I had cleaning supplies, reasonable amounts of cleaning supplies, kitchen cleaner, kitchen bleach, bath cleaner, sponges, hand soap. They wanted me to get rid of this stuff. And I'm like, why? And they were like, if you leave it behind and we come back to check the apartment, it'll probably be thrown away. And I'm like, that's so unnecessary. At the same time, though, I'm like, yeah, but I'm not really leaving, so I don't have to do any of this. But I just couldn't, like, I have to assume that this is their first time experiencing an ALT change. Because normally, the next person will come right after, and, you know, it's helpful for this stuff to already be here. Even if it's not your style, it's enough for you to live with. You know, you need sheets until you can kind of get on your feet. You know, you've got a lot of bills when you first come here. You don't get paid right away. You don't know where everything is to buy things. So it's helpful to have these things already here. And so I was just like blown away that they just wanted me to literally just throw everything away. It was like, that doesn't make any sense. But like I said, I don't have to deal with that because I'm staying. So I don't have to throw away all of these things, which in my mind is super wasteful. So it's gonna stay. So that was kind of all Tuesday. That was everything that happened Tuesday. It was a lot. I was stressed. Like, I felt stressed. And I was like, okay, so now I have to turn around and start dealing with making the changes for me to stay. One of those was contacting my university and trying to request a second deferral. So I had sent them an email, I believe Monday I might have sent asking, because I was already interested in deferring anyway. Hadn't heard anything back, and I was like, okay. Once I got that email on Tuesday, I was like, I need to get a faster reply. So I made a couple phone calls, left some messages, and then they didn't respond quite as quickly as I would have liked, which is understandable. I didn't expect an email like immediately. So I just made the decision to say, okay, I'm gonna stay in Japan another year. I'll deal with the school thing. If I have to reapply, I guess that's just how it goes. So like Wednesday when I went into school, I told them, hey, I'm good. Okay, sorry about that. My battery died. I think I was talking about the university. Anyway, so I had sent them an email asking for a deferral because I was already interested in deferring anyway. But the problem was I had already used my one deferral, and so I was asking for a second one. And because of this email coming up, I needed to get kind of a faster answer. So I had left them a couple of voicemails and didn't hear anything back immediately, but I went ahead and went back to the school on Wednesday and said, yes, I'm going to go forward with this and stay another year, and I'll worry about my university later. And I think it was sometime on Wednesday, might have been that night, I did finally get an email back, and it was basically just, hey, I'm writing in response to the phone message you left. Can you write us out your reasons for wanting a second deferral? And I was like, okay, well, I had mentioned in the phone message that I had sent an email, and I was kind of hoping they would just go look for that email and read it. But obviously they didn't. And I was like, well, if you didn't want to read one paragraph of me giving my reasons why I want another deferral, then I'm going to write you a 4.5-page document explaining exactly why I want another deferral with references. So I spent, I think, Wednesday night and Thursday morning typing up this 4-page document detailing why I wanted to defer again. And the main reasons for that were, one, of course, the current situation. I didn't think it would be very safe for me personally. Because of the way my flight route would be, I would have to go through 4 separate international airports. I would actually have to go through both Tokyo airports and transfer from one to the other. And both Tokyo and Dallas, where I would have to do entry procedures into the US, are experiencing case spikes. And so I was like, okay, well look, the situation in America is not great. I'd have to travel through a lot of international airports and areas where there are increasing cases, so that puts my risk higher. I have relatives that would be at increased risk for catching this, so I don't want to put them in danger. And also, American healthcare sucks, so if I was to get this before going to Bristol, that would blow all my savings out of the water. Like, gone. Because I don't have healthcare in the US right now. And then additionally, you know, if I were to get it in Bristol, again, there's the issue that I don't know what my healthcare would look like. It would probably really interfere with my studies. And the other problem was that because we don't fully, completely understand this virus, but we have already seen a lot of cases where it's affecting, you know, the lungs, neurologically getting, you know, people being affected, and we don't know how long that'll take. And so for this particular career pathway that I want to go in, where I'm dealing with animals and caring for animals, I need to have a fit and healthy body. So putting myself at risk of potentially permanently damaging my body, or at the very least putting myself in a situation where the recovery could be very extended, would not help me. Like, even if I managed to finish my studies, it would still put me behind career-wise starting if I had longer lasting health repercussions for that. So that was kind of my biggest reason for wanting to defer. But I also, you know, the fact that the university hadn't really detailed what the situation would be for international students, it was taking too long. Another thing that bugged me was that I would see like information about Q&As pop up sometimes, but it wasn't like across the board. Like there were some that I found out about on Instagram where they're like, we're gonna send you an email, and I never got the email. So like that whole situation was kind of frustrating. And then, you know, that was kind of the basically my second reason, was that the lack of information and the slow updates was not cutting it for me. As an international student, I can't do this. If there's a last minute change, I can adjust quickly. I need to plan stuff out months ahead of time. I need to know these things. And then the last reason was just, yes, financially, it is better for me to just put it off another year. Stay where I am, stay safe, stay with my, secure job contract. Obviously unemployment is really high right now in the States, so kind of staying in the more stable situation I'm in right now and being able to continue saving money for my degree is, I think, just going to be better for me long term. So I sent that email to them, and luckily they did respond relatively quickly, although apparently she was on annual leave, the director, and I was like, wow, it's always my luck that anytime I email somebody in need of like a quick answer, they happen to be on annual leave, or the school is currently closed for break or something. But anyway, she did get back to me, so they did make an exception and give me a second deferral. So that is great. Everything's like taken care of. I can stay in Japan for 1 more year. I'll be getting paid for 1 more year. I don't have to move. I can stay safe. And my place at the university is guaranteed for next year. I just have to reaccept the offer and put in the deferral online. So finally, I kind of have that weight off of my shoulders. It was kind of like a really intense few days from like Sunday. Tuesday was really intense because it was just a lot of stuff happening. And then luckily I was able to get that turnaround from the university response in just like a couple days. So I'm just happy that that's taken care of. Friday I called to uncancel my internet, so that's done. I don't have to worry about that. My internet is secured. I hadn't started the process for canceling my phone yet, so phone and internet, fine. The only thing I'm waiting on is I also need to go extend my visa, but I have to wait for the school to give me the certificate showing that they had rehired me. So hopefully in like the next week or so, they'll get that. I've already filled out the other paperwork for the visa, and I already have the next 2 weeks off of school anyway. So just as soon as I get that, I can go to the immigration office in Kobe, get that additional extension on my visa. I feel kind of dumb. I feel like maybe I should have just asked for like the 2 years or 3 years or something. I don't know if that's actually possible, but it's a little bit silly because I'm going to get a new residence card again because the one I have was only good for 1 year. So anyway, as soon as I get that paperwork, I can go take care of that, and I don't have to worry about pension anymore because that's not going to get submitted. So yeah, I guess I don't really have that much stuff to worry about right now. I think most of August is summer break for the students, so I'll have August to kind of, you know, get things figured out for the new term. I spent this week unpacking everything that I had. The good news is that even though I shipped like the bulk of my stuff home, I did still have like winter clothes here because in the off chance that the sea shipping would take a long time, I wanted to make sure I had some clothes for Bristol. So luckily I still have a winter jacket and I still have some winter clothes here. So clothes wise, I'm good. That'll also give me a little bit more time to get rid of some of the little miscellaneous items that the school wants gone. But yeah, so that's the update. I am staying in Japan for 1 more year. I'm going to become a jet unicorn, full 5 years. And yeah, I guess I'm just going to spend these next 2 weeks just relaxing a little bit. I have been really behind on like my blog and stuff because of everything going on, so I'm going to try and take the next 2 weeks to start getting like more of a schedule set for everything and get back on the train for that. As far as how this channel is going to go, I was kind of assuming that I'd be able to shift into the wildlife and conservation topics because of starting my master's degree, but obviously that's not going to happen for another year, so I'm still thinking about that. But as far as things are right now, everything is taken care of. I'm staying another year, no worries, and that's where I'm at right now. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.